we're going to attempt our first dual-colored conversion. I think this is a terrible idea. I think running a Tron mana base in a monocolored deck is very difficult as it stands. I think it requires a decent amount of switch so that you can bring in, as you've seen, prisms and stuff like that to find colors. I think the girl version gets away with it because it's running a single red spell that has a single red mana. It's also running so many different ways to convert that colorless mana. So we're going to start out obviously with our mana base. Obviously taking out 8 and have to find one more. I think the guild gates have to go. I was not a fan of those, honestly, in Izzet Post in the first place. I know a lot of people have argued with me on this. I feel like they were too slow, that even the one turn that you lost from them untapping was too much to handle. I think when you bring in a full set of Tron lands, it's going to be even slower. I think when you, in a similar way, we did Rebel Tron, the similar way that I brought out the Steeps because they would come into play tapped. I want to get rid of the guild gates because when I want colored mana, I'm going to want it right away. And I think the next thing to go is going to be a mountain, because we're going to be much heavier in blue. I think what we're going to do is try and reduce some of the burn spells anyway, perhaps in favor of things like, you see this particular version is already running a copy of Serrated Arrows. And I think that's going to provide a little more utility for the deck than we would see out of, say, Lightning Bolt, just for the fact that you're a little more likely. This particular list, it's a bit of an older, a bit of an older list, sorry. This is what I run when I've run Izzet Post. There are kind of odd newer lists that have really segmented things, that have replaced, they'll still run 6 burn spells, but instead of running, say, 3 Flame Slash and 3 Lightning Bolts, they'll bring in a whole variety of different red burn spells instead. Just a whole bunch of 1-ofs, and I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't like it. I think it's too segmented. Some of them do have utility. So when I run it personally, this is what I continue to run. Alright, so we'll keep our land base like this. Now the first thing we're going to hesitate on is obviously going to be counter spells, Rolling Thunder. Rolling Thunder is really great because of the fact that it can divide the damage, and we might keep it just for that. But Karavek's Torch definitely gives you an advantage because it only requires a single red in the casting cost. I mean, there's 2 ways we can go about this. We could straight up say, this is it. We've replaced the mana base. We're going to go with this particular list. And that's definitely one way to do it. The other way to do it is to try and adjust the list a little bit to accommodate the land base. Bring in, say, expedition maps, which sounds just terrible. And I hesitate to do it. I'm just so nervous that this idea is so terrible because you have to try and split across 2 colors. I feel like expedition maps, you're reducing some of the stability of this deck. This deck was able to survive. That was the whole thing, is this deck wanted to survive to the late game. You had Glimmer Post gaining you life. You had the early cheap burn spells that could clear the board, and even in some cases capsize to clear the board. And you would survive drawing a whole bunch of cards until you found a point where you found that Rolling Thunder, where you found that Karavek's Torch, and then you straight up burnt your opponent for even 20 to win the game. I think that bringing in the maps, just really hesitate to do it because it could slow you down a significant amount. I feel like the prisms here, I talked about whether a 4th prism or a 4th map is more important. I do think I want to bring in a couple of maps. I think in this particular one, the 4th prism is more important to you than a 4th map, because of the fact that you need 2 colors as opposed to 1. Man, and I really do hesitate to bring in these maps. But We're going to bring in 3 maps just to kind of help us find those lands a little bit more. And I'm definitely going to take out these 2 counter spells. Rolling Thunder, I think, again, we're going to stick with. Though you could bring out Electrickery. You could also keep that as sideboard. I also feel like Mystical Teachings becomes a little less effective in these decks. There was a time where Izzet Post was running both Mystical Teachings and Forbidden Alchemy and digging through spells. Teachings becomes less impressive as we continue to bring in all of these extra artifacts. I mean, you look, Flame Slash is a sorcery, Preordain is a sorcery, Compulsive Research is a sorcery. So Mystical Teachings is finding 2 Condescends, 3 Lightning Bolts, and a Capsize and a Ghostly Flicker. So I feel like I wouldn't be too torn up taking 1 out. But if I take 1 out, is there really even a point to running a single Mystical Teachings? What does it do for us? It thins our deck. It does find those necessary burn spells. I feel like running 2 of them is just way too much. So I'm definitely going to take 1 out. Like I said, I'm not even sure I want to run a single copy of it. Because the deck's doing a decent amount of draw. This particular list, I mean, map's going to thin out lands. You have 4 Preordains, which may even be hard to hit on turn 1. You're drawing off of Prism, Compulsive Research, Seagate Oracle, Muldrifter, Condescend to a lesser extent. You're not actually drawing cards, but you're setting it up. We could drop that for Mysteries of the Deep. Is that the name? I think that's the name. And that would give us a heavier land draw. Yeah, Mysteries of the Deep. That would give us a 3-card draw. The 5 mana is not so terrible because of the Tron engine. So is it more beneficial to tutor up a Lightning Bolt? Or is it more beneficial to draw 3 cards? I kind of want to go Mysteries. I feel like a lot of people are going to disagree with this, but I kind of want to go Mysteries as opposed to Teachings. I mean, this is already brutal, and I kind of want to bring in a second Serrated Arrows over, say, maybe... Well... over Flame Slash or Lightning Bolt 3. Now, if we were running Teachings, I feel like Lightning Bolt would be the optimal keep and remove Flame Slash. But without Teachings, you can't tutor up Lightning Bolt anyways. Maybe Flame Slash for 4 will kill more. Lightning Bolt does give you the extra 3 damage to your opponent. You can target him as opposed to just a creature, but Flame Slash does help us get rid of Mirror Enforcers and the like. Yeah, we'll chance it. Why not? As I've said, this is the very first step if you were going to convert a deck from 8 post to Tron. You're going to just try out a whole bunch of oddball things, put them together, run the deck, see if there's any viability to it in any fashion. And if it just hits the ground hard, you learn, you see what hit the ground hard, you know what the problem is. Maybe I realized that it really is hard to hit this double red, and so I switched that for Torch. Maybe I realize it's near impossible to hit any of these on turn 1, so I remove Preordain for something at maybe the 2 CC. It slows the deck down a little bit, but you know, if you can't get that Preordain until turn 3 anyways, you really have to kind of sit back and debate how much momentum you're actually losing. You know, as opposed to bringing in a 4th map and say 3 Think Twice or something like that. So again, first steps, they're really oddball things. I don't think anyone is going to really set out to simply change their current 8 post deck into a Tron deck, for the most part at least. But it's definitely a very cool experiment. So we're going to, I think, stick with this and see if see if it's as terrible as I feel like it should be.